Welcome to the country, where we do country things. And on today's video, I'm going to give you guys a walkthrough of the completed aquaponic system, show you how all the components are working and how it's flowing, and just kind of give you an explanation of everything. So just give me a minute to get back over there, and I'll be right back. So I want to start off with the design of the swirl filter. So I have this 1-inch line coming in from the sump tank, and it comes at an angle and then necks down to 3/4 of an inch, which really gives me a lot of disturbance for adding oxygen, and it really gives me a good jet stream of water to actually create this swirling effect that I need to really do a good job of removing the heavy solids from the system. So this is the first overflow standpipe that I put in, and the water right now is right above that level. And the reason I need the amount of water that I have in here is because I'm using the weight of the water to actually push the maximum amount through this 1-inch drain. So on my initial startup, I was playing with the levels in this tank, and I figured out that this level right here was sufficient enough to push enough water through that 1-inch line and then out to the biofilter. So I've got about 150 gallons or so in here, which is the maximum height I think I'm going to want. I could go ahead and add a little bit more water to it, but I don't want any more weight than I need up on top of these blocks. You know, it's kind of you want to limit the amount of weight you have up in the air, but you still have to have an efficient amount of water flow by using the weight of the water to actually push. So that's why I have the level set where it's at. And I also have this emergency overflow here plumbed in to where if I have a plug or something, I can go ahead and still move the water out through this standpipe here. So I've got some redundancies built in and some protections built into this, just in case I do have some type of plug or something. So right in the center, I have the solids lifting outlet, and the way that works is it's designed to suck the water from the center of the tank and from the bottom of the tank. And as the solids come in, they swirl around, and as the water gets closer to the center, the water slows down and it deposits the heavy solids right to the center, and then they're able to be picked up by the flow and then taken out and then into my 4-inch little tube filters there, kind of for the initial filtration. So let's get down and look at the biofilters, and I'll show you how I got them designed. So here's the initial 4-inch tubes that I built into here to kind of catch as many of the heavy solids as I can. I've got these valves on the bottom where I can just come in here every once in a while and just open those valves and drain any of the solids off that I'm catching right there. So we'll take a walk over here and I'll show you this first filter that's feeding the grow area. So when I designed these filters, I was a little bit worried about how much weight that I would actually have if I filled this thing completely full of gravel. You need an a sufficient level of water to effectively push and get the maximum amount of flow out of this 1-inch line that feeds the entire grow area right here. So there's a certain level that you have to maintain, and then you have to put enough gravel in there to cover that water so that you don't grow any more algae than you actually have to. If you grow a lot of algae, that just steals nutrients and it steals oxygen from your system. So you want to try to keep as much algae out of your system as you can. So when I designed these, I decided to go ahead and drill these drains off center. Instead of put them in the middle, I put them off center. That way, if I just wanted to use half of the tank as a gravel filter and then half the tank as an area to put some fish or something, I could do that and be confident that the frame is going to be able to hold the weight, and that this plastic's not going to buckle or bust because of the weight of the gravel. So on each of these tanks, I just have them half full of the gravel. Then I have a little area here where I'm going to be putting some some fish or some crayfish or something maybe. There'll be something living in here. And that'll also help if any of the heavy solids gets past the filters over there, they'll get settled out into the water side and they won't get into the gravel. So I really don't want to clog up my gravel or muck up my gravel too much with heavy solids. And if I have to, I can shut the system down, drain this out with a pump, and then I can clean the heavy solids out of this side, and I can keep my gravel cleaner longer. So on this one, I have an emergency overflow plumbed into this T right here. And what that does is it takes the water back, the extra water back to the sump tank. So I always want to have more flow than what these grow areas can handle. So I never have a problem with getting enough water to all these buckets. So I know that as long as I have water going out of this drain right here, that I have more flow than what the grow area can handle. And I know I'm pretty confident that I'm getting enough water to all the buckets to actually water the plants. So with this draining, it's able to keep up really easily. I got a lot of extra room here for any type of movement or any type of problem if something clogs up, and that's because of the angle that I put this at, and that's really important. These angles and stuff, and the height of everything was really important, and that was one of the hardest things to. When you're designing these things, is the height, to make sure everything is at the exact right height, not too high, not too low, to make sure that everything is draining and moving the way it needs to move. I also have an emergency overflow in here, and then in this green pipe right here, this is just a protector for the 1 inch or the 3/4 inch line that I'm using as the equalizer line. So these two tanks are equalized through this line right here, and they can never change levels. No matter, you can see I've got more water coming to this one than I do to that one over there. And so no matter which one is getting more water, that can flow forwards or backwards and maintain the same level of water in these tanks all the time, or these filters all the time. So another thing that I did was I made sure that the back of the filters was higher than the front, and that's to make sure that I have water, that I'm forcing the water to the front and kind of pushing it out through the drains as much as I can. You'll notice here, like on this tank here, or this filter here, I have this corner running downhill kind of towards me. You can see on the level that it's not level here on this corner, and that's because I want the water coming my way and coming to this drain line right here. But if you take the level and you put it across this way, you can see that they're actually perfectly level that way, but they're kind of leaning towards me. So we talked about this drain line here on this tank on the last video, where I plumbed it in, but I didn't know if I was going to need to use it or not. And when I did my initial flow test, I realized that I did not have enough water going to the grow area to sufficiently supply all the buckets. So what I did, instead of plumbing this and going back to the sump tank as an overflow, I actually plumbed it back the other way, and then drained it into a T over here against the east wall. That's helping fill up the tubes on row 3 and row 4. So it's giving me a little extra kick of water that I needed, just to kind of make sure that row 3 and row 4 is getting enough water to fill all of the 100 buckets. So the system, like I said, it's pretty much ready to go. It's been running for 3 or 4 days now. And the next step is planning out the buckets and adding the fish. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to add the fish kind of slowly over the next 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month or so, as the weather warms up and as the fish start biting in the lakes and the creeks and stuff where I can go out and catch them. I'm probably going to do about 50 fish a week until I get to the point where I have 200 or 300 fish in the system or so. And then start watching that water quality and start watching those nitrites and nitrates and make sure I'm not overstocking the system. You want to do it really slowly. You don't want to just dump a bunch of fish in here at one time before the system is kind of matured and able to handle that bio load that the fish are going to bring to the system. So a little bit at a time over a month or 6 week time period. And then by the time that your growing season is really kicking in, you should have a mature system and you should be able to be at full stocking density. So what I went ahead and done today is I went to the bait shop and I bought a couple of dozen minnows at the bait shop just to kind of get the stocking started. And these guys are just they're just river minnows like you use to fish with. And like I said, I just got a couple dozen of them, and we're put them in this tank right here, and we're going to put some goldfish and stuff in here as well. You know, the goldfish I got last fall that's been in the house all winter. They're going to move out here as soon as the water warms up enough to have them come out here. You can see all the minnows down there, hopefully. So anyway, there's a quick kind of a run through of the system and how everything's working. I'm really happy with the way it's flowing. I'm not having any problems with it. Initially, what I'm going to do is kind of start this water off by using some nutrients that are in powder form, just to kind of get everything going and get everything kind of ready for fish and for plants by adding some nutrients to the water. So I have this nitrogen fertilizer, this urea, I have this monopotassium phosphate, and I have this chelated iron that I'm adding to the water just to kind of get everything kicked off and get some nutrients in the system. So what I'll do is I'll add them in right here, and that way by the time all these nutrients are filtered through the 100 buckets and back to the sump tank, all that stuff should be filtered out, so it shouldn't really affect the fish too much. And that'll give me some nutrients in the water as the system matures, and I can go ahead and start planting my tomato plants and stuff in here, and they'll go ahead and have some nutrition to kind of get growing until I can get the system completely stocked out. So that's how I'm kind of getting the system started up. So 2022 gardening season is underway here in western Oklahoma. The aquaponic system is up and running. So what I'll do on the next video is show you guys how I'm going to be planting out these buckets and putting the tomatoes in. So we'll do that next time. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching this one, and I'll be back.